Morning. How are you? Saturday morning. Here we are. Thought we could use a little bit of a vibe, a little bit of a chill vibe, a little bit of an easygoing vibe going into the read today. Right? So, one reason for the chill vibe is that it's a little bit of a late start. It's a later start to the read on Saturdays. You should know this by now. So we are getting going by 9, though. You know, we got a smaller Inquirer today, as we all know. Saturday's a little bit of a lighter read, a little bit of a slower read, a little bit of a calmer read. Anybody do anything crazy last night? Anybody do anything silly? Just like stayed in your house? Wow. That's intense. This is intense stuff. What do you think? You want to just get started today? What's the Saturday paper look like on February 13th, 2021 in the Philadelphia region? You want to just start separating sections? Did you get your paper? Did you? You didn't? Still haven't subscribed, have you? You know, that's why I'm here. But I do encourage a subscription if you can make it happen. If you have the means. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter at Daily Paper Read. Watch me every day, except for Sundays. Here's the front section. Let's do the, what's this, region? What's going on with the region today? What's going on in town? And outside town? We're about to find out. Last time I got a recommendation to put a little scratch on the Lakers. I remember the game now. Lakers-Grizzlies game. For 30 points, 10 rebounds for LeBron. Put a little scratch on it. Sounded like a pretty solid bet on FanDuel. So I did it. Just a little bit. He had 28 points, 9 boards. 21 more basket, 1 more board, bro. But we're still going to look at the sports with the same due diligence we would had I have won that bet. Because that's my integrity. I am going to pay as much attention to sports even though I lost. Right? Speaking of which, let's do it. Let's go right to sports then. I mean, now that I'm thinking about sports. Right? Okay. Hi. So, you know, there's a game today, another basketball game, if I want to try to redeem myself. Sixers Suns, a hometown game. 3 p.m. So you got a little bit late afternoon game if you wanted to dabble in some sporting event today. But this article here happens to be about Ben, saying he's in a league of his own. Why? Why is he in a league of his own, Mr. Keith Pompey? What's the take? He takes pride in guarding the foe's big guns. He refers to himself as the best defender in the NBA, quote. Did he really say that about himself? The Sixers' Ben Simmons guarded Portland Trailblazers perennial all-star Damian Lillard on Thursday. 2 nights earlier, he took on Sacramento Kings standout De'Aaron Fox. And don't be surprised to see him on Phoenix Suns all-star Devin Booker at some point Saturday. For Simmons, this is the norm. What's that, Coach? Of course, take on all the best defenders, because I am self-proclaimed best defender in the NBA. Quote, I take pride in guarding the best player on the floor every night, Simmons said. It's not a one-off thing. If you watch me, I'm typically guarding the best player. And typically the best players are guards or shooting guards, whatever it is. And I love that. The two-time All-Star and reigning first-team all-defensive selection loves it his teammates tell him, you go out there and lock this guy up. I'm still looking forward to this quote when he claims that he's the, quote, best defender in the league. Where is it? Let's go to C3, see if it's floating around there, if we can actually just pull it out of the article. There we go. Yep, he goes, but most of the time, I feel like I'm doing a good job and making the right plays. You know, I feel like I'm the best defender in the NBA. Stats. 6th in the league in steals. Averaging 1.7 per game. It's down from the league best 2.1 steals he averaged last season. He leads the league in deflections per game at 4. Loose balls recovered per game at 1.6. And tied with Toronto's Fred VanVleet for total loose balls recovered 36. He's second in total deflections at 92. Does that make him the best defender in the league, though? Maybe he should say, I don't know. I can make the boldest claims in the NBA to the newspaper. Signed, Ben Simmons. Yeah, the Flyers, I mean, they just keep, it's like every other day. Every day you see some other player being put on the protocol list for the Flyers. I mean, it's going across the league, as we know. But now Oscar Lindblom has got added to the list, and so did Scott Lawton. And we know Lindblom has had cancer. He's a cancer survivor, so I hope that, you know, he's okay. We have 7 players on the list now. Justin Braun, Morgan Frost, Claude Giroux, Travis Sanheim, Voracek, and now Lawton, Lindblom. When is he going to practice again? When is he going to be able to play again? It says with 7 players on the list, the team did not say whether it will be able to return to practice on Monday. This season's getting out of hand for the NHL right now. As planned, for the first time in a week, 25 of the 47 NHL players on the COVID list are from the Flyers, 7, the Devils, 18, Flyers and Devils, teams that face each other on the 26th and the 28th. Flyers had 4 straight games postponed because of COVID. I don't know. The league has got to do something. I don't know what, though. It's not up for me to know. I mean, the NHL has people working there. The NHL can talk to medical experts and get analysis and advice. Go ahead, NHL. I'm just waiting for something to happen, something to change. What's up with the Wentz trade? Sources doubt the bids have included the first-round pick, much less the haul that the Eagles anticipated. More about Wentz. I did see a couple takes on the Twitterverse about them just not getting a first rounder for him. You got to settle for a second, I was reading, or even maybe a second in a player. I mean, look what happened with Goff. You know, they had to give up Jared Goff and picks to get an aging Matt Stafford. So, and Goff was the number 1 pick. I don't know if his stats are too far off from Carson's last year either, or if his value, his player value right now is on par with Goff. Could be. So it's just a mess. It probably can't go on past March 19th when the Eagles owe Wentz $10 million roster bonus that will increase the $33.8 million 2021 dead cap charge for trading him to $43.8 million. The first figure would be more dead cap money than ever occurred in the history of the NFL. The second figure would be nearly double the highest dead cap figure ever incurred, Jared Goff, $22.2 million, and that would just be beyond ridiculous. This is Les Bowen. We can be pretty sure Howie Roseman, who takes pride in managing the cap, doesn't want to be thought of as being beyond ridiculous. So look, March 19th is what Bowen is saying. Hey, this saga can't go on past March 19th. Because if that's the case, Wentz is going to get another $10 million roster bonus. So that's a little bit of a deadline. Still means more than a month and a week or so of hearing about this if it takes that long. Let's get rid of the guy. I mean, at this point, like, I'm not even sure I care what we get. Sick of hearing about it. Standings, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed for our teams here in the Philadelphia area. Flyers are just sitting there, chilling. Still second place. 8-3-2. All right. Let me look at the weather. What do you think? What? Am I seeing more snow today? What is going on in this town? I mean, it is the Northeast in the wintertime, so I guess what's going on in this town is what typically goes on in this town in those winters. Although last winter we had not as much snow as we've had so far. Look at that stretch. You can see. You have eyes. Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. One reprieve of day on Wednesday, then we go back to Thursday. Boom, more snow. Sunset, 5:35. Wow, we are really getting quick. Moving along quick to the 40s. You know, it just stinks that it's so cold and like icy and snowy because, you know we can't really go many places. Stuck in the house, COVID on the loose. So what do? We try to go outside. We have people gather in the backyard, safely distanced, but gathering in the backyards or gathering on driveways or in parks, other places. It's snowing and cold. Can't even do that. What are you trying to do to us, world? What are you trying to do to us, cosmos? Cut us a break. You're always going to have your trusty newspaper reader here to flip through the sections, get you through the winter months. Region! What do you think about the region? Do you like the region? Do you like being in the region? Let's see what the Inquirer is saying is going on in the region today. PA outlined steps for the vaccine rollout. They're just outlining these steps now. Okay, to improve the state's coronavirus vaccine rollout, including ordering providers to administer at least 80% of their first doses within 7 days of receiving them, and sharply cutting the number of providers to get more shots to those able to quickly inoculate the most people. All vaccine providers will also be required to let patients make appointments over the phone and schedule second shots when providing the first, according to orders signed by Acting Health Secretary Allison Beam and Governor Tom Wolf. Does that mean that previous to this change in procedure, you get your first shot and then you just leave? They wouldn't say, hey, when do you want to come back for that second one? You just See ya. We'll actually complete this process at a date to be determined. We don't know when, though. Good luck figuring that out. It would make sense of like, psh. So when did you want to come in for that second one? I gotta get the book out. Well, that's good that they made that change. Got another vaccine article here on the right side of the page. Vaccine site topic of talks with FEMA. Trying to figure out where they're going to have this mass vaccination site rollout, is my guess. Federal Emergency Management Agency is in talks with Philly to run a mass vaccination clinic at the Pennsylvania Convention Center, a city council member said Friday. The potential of FEMA coming to Philly follows weeks of squabbling among local officials over the city's vaccination efforts. Some council members are pushing Mayor Jim Kenney to open a large clinic at the Linc after the collapse of the city's partnership with Philly Fighting COVID, a startup run by self-described, quote, bunch of college kids. That story still makes me just shake my head and smirk. Philly. That had been administering vaccines at the convention center until last month. So we'll see if, there's a mass vaccination site either in Center City at the convention center or down Broad at the Linc. Keep your eyes on that story. Charges dropped against woman in road rage incident. It's like Cassandra Franklin. She was a Mount Airy woman, originally accused of reckless endangerment in September after a road rage incident involving the then chief of homicide for the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. She had initially been charged with aggravated assault, a felony, for allegedly trying to run Anthony Voci off the road while he was driving his motorcycle. But that charge was later dropped, along with a lesser charge of possession of an instrument of crime, simple assault, tampering with evidence, and obstruction of justice. If I recall correctly, this is a story where Voci, thinking he's a big shot, was like behaving kind of like aggressively and kind of like yelling at her. And Voci had accused Franklin of twice attempting to cut him off and almost knocking him down as they drove on Kelly and Lincoln Drive on September 16th. Franklin, in turn, accused Voci of calling her and her passenger, quote, black bitches, as they later clashed at a stoplight. Both denied the other's allegations. Yeah, I knew that Voci was got all his chest all puffed out about it when it happened and, try to pull rank. I'm actually kind of happy to hear that Cassandra, is not going to be charged in that situation. If I recall the facts of the case correctly from what seems like 18 years ago. It was just September. There's going to be some safety measures that people want to put in place at Spring Garden Street. Because Spring Garden Street bristles with hazards to bicyclists and pedestrians and needs safety improvements to protect them, community residents concluded during an extended comment period meant to guide design of a long-awaited overhaul of the corridor. I used to live right around the corner from Spring Garden. I used to live in Northern Liberties. 5th and Brown? Was it 5th and Brown? Come on, what was it? 5th and Brown? So it was right around the corner. I would walk up the street. Right in the corner there was Silk City Diner. It was Spring Garden and Brown, or 5th, excuse me. Used to have a good amount of meals and adult beverages there, and it was a good time. But yeah, it was a busy street. Trying to cross it was always always an adventure, I felt like. Spring Garden Street is not ranked among the most dangerous of the city's 2,500 miles of roadway on the Vision Zero map plotting traffic accidents that cause death or serious injury, but it has its nasty spots. In May 2018, Pablo Avendano, a bicycle courier delivering food, was struck and killed by an SUV near 10th Street. He was in an unprotected bike lane. Hey, obviously I'm biased. I ride a bike. I try to ride 50 miles a week. Just saying, factually. I'm not trying to be like, look at me, 50 miles. I'm just saying, as a guy who rides bikes, 50 miles a week at least, I'm okay with any sort of street improvement that protects cyclists. Provides that little bit of a lane there. Some space for us to get by. Because I'm telling you, people like to give us a little bit of this, like a little bit of this, driving by. Ooh! Some people do. It's intentional. I feel like some people are like, hey, stay on your toes. I'm not going to give you any space. No, I can't. Listen, if I knew what people's motivations were in this crazy world for doing crazy things like that, man, I probably want to be reading newspapers live every day. Okay? Let's leave it at that. What's closed and what's open on President's Day? You know you want to know. So I'm going to tell you. Banks, optional. Savings and loans, optional. Federal agencies, closed. Federal courts, closed. State agencies, closed. Local and state courts, closed. Liquor stores, PA, open. New Jersey, optional. Postal service, closed. Oh, small OBITS section today, but we do need to spend the time, as we always do, quietly acknowledging those that have passed. I'm just seeing 4 people here today. One of them is young. She's right here. Whoop. 48. Who are you? Lauren Kent. Suddenly, on Wednesday, February 3rd. She was born and raised in Philly, where she attended the Philadelphia School and Central High School. She graduated from George Washington University with bachelor's and master's degrees in business administration. She enjoyed a successful career in marketing for a variety of health and wellness businesses. She was fiercely loyal and a beloved wife, mother, daughter, sister, and friend. She made this world a better place and profoundly touched everyone who knew her. What happened to you, Lauren? What happened? I do wonder that. Again, I said it before. I'm going to keep saying it. It's like a broken record with me on this one. Whenever a younger person dies, suddenly especially, I wonder, what went down? What did you run into? And when I say run into, I mean anyway. Mentally, emotionally, physically, what happened? I don't expect to know, but I can't help but think it. Robert Betts, he passed away at 83, February 4th, after a long decline from Lewy body dementia. Lewy body dementia, L-E-W-Y, body dementia. I wonder what sets that apart from standard dementia. I don't know. After retirement, Bob became interested in his family genealogy. To his amazement, he learned of a relative, Robert Betts, born in 1614 in Bearsted, Kent County, England, who immigrated to Somerset, Maryland, then an English colony. He liked that. He liked that factoid that he found out about his family. He liked it enough that they put it in the OBITS for him. They thought of all the things that he got a kick out of in his life, or what he could be known for, and they said he was really kind of tickled by that fact he learned with his genealogy search. Let's put that in here. He enjoyed being a grandparent and watching the development of a young child. In a home with many doors and closets, he delighted in playing hide and seek with grandson Will and his friends. He continued as a great lover of history and politics. Until late in his life, he could be found stationed watching the 6 p.m. news on his carefully selected TV channel. Sounds like a kindred spirit. Here he is. He liked watching his local newscast. He was an informed individual. Rest in peace, Robert. Another younger person here, Eric Steech, 57. Oh man, in lieu of flowers, contribution in his memory to the National Brain Tumor Society. So that tells you something there. He was an avid Eagles fan who held season tickets for over 40 years. Well, hope they all are sleeping easy. Transitioning to a little bit less of a heavier segment. I'm going to see what CAROLYN's got to say about somebody's problem. What does CAROLYN Hack's advice columnist extraordinaire have to say about this question on Saturday, the day before Valentine's Day, 2021? Did I spring that on you the day before Valentine's Day? You knew that, right? Because you better be getting some stuff. If you got a significant other, you better do it today. Get a card or something. Because tomorrow is the day. And, if you're waiting to order something online to get it delivered, you're kind of in a pickle now because they don't deliver on Monday. You saw post offices are closed. No mail delivery on Monday. So if you can't say to your significant other, hey, it's one more day. It'll come tomorrow. It's on back order. Because that's going to not come until Tuesday at the earliest. Right? Or is Amazon deliver on tomorrow? I think Amazon probably would deliver. Okay, anyway, I digress. Let's get back to CAROLYN here. Let's get back to the question of the day. It's time to update my will. I'm a widow in my 70s. Modest income. I own my own modest home. Never had my own kids, but have nieces and nephews. They grew up in a different part of the country, but I saw them for short periods during the childhood summers. We were affectionate then. Now that they are adults in their 30s and 40s, I rarely see or hear from them, with one exception. Mary. Mary and I formed a close relationship. Now, Mary is in quotes, so that's not her real name. Just want to make sure I'm crystal clear about all I'm reading here. Mary in quotes and I formed a close relationship when she came to my city for college. I did not get the same chance with the others. Mary and her husband are the only ones with kids, and they have a disabled child who will likely always be a dependent. For this reason, and honestly because we are close and I like to help with finances, I am thinking of naming her as my main beneficiary. I also plan to specify a charity, 2 close friends, and my 2 siblings with more modest proportions. But family is family. Should I include small portions to the 5 other cousins? I'm flummoxed. That's a great word, isn't it? Flummoxed. Friends and I have said I am not being fair to the others because we didn't have the same chance to form a close relationship, and that by only naming Mary, I could cause family strain. The last thing I want to do is create problems. Your advice is welcomed. Okay, well, let's see. It's CAROLYN. What's CAROLYN got to say? CAROLYN's probably going to say, you do what you want with your money. It's your money. That'll be my guess. Like, I don't know. I look at it that way. It's the person's money. If you didn't have a close relationship when you were growing up, when you were alive with them, that's on you. And they don't want to leave you money, that's on you. Not on them. So maybe you can make your own money in your life and rely upon that. Or be nice to your relatives and then maybe they'll leave you some money. Let's see what CAROLYN says. What you're proposing is indeed fair. It's just that you define fairness differently from your friends. Mary and her husband are looking at a lifetime of medical and related expenses for their child. Is that quote fair or unfair? It's neither. It just is. So earmarking money to help Mary with that financial obligation is one way to help balance things. Talk to your attorney about leaving money for the specific purpose of the child's care and find out about any limits and restrictions, etc. If you direct the gift, then it's hard to see how the other nieces and nephews would call that unfair without sounding selfish. And assuming they would in the first place. Not everyone is entitled or greedy. Okay, I mean that she's a much more less cynical person than I can tend to be after I read the question at first glance. She's a little bit more I don't know the word. She gives people more space, I guess. More benefit of the doubt. Which is good. So she has some readers' thoughts. I guess she put this on to the readers. She said, what do you guys think about this? It's Saturday. You guys weigh in. One reader says, make sure you mention Mary's child's disability to your estate planning attorney before you leave everything to Mary. You will want to be sure that in case something happens to Mary, your gift doesn't disqualify the child from any federal benefits or programs she may be entitled to by virtue of a disability. Good point. Very good point. Another reader says, be sure to actually consult with an estate planning attorney and not just fill out an online form. The inclusion of a disabled child in the mix makes it worth the effort. Look at these people stepping up to help the child with a disability. I love it. Give whatever you bequest directly to the child with a disability in trust. That makes it clear that while Mary may have been closest to you, the quote fairness is in supporting a person who cannot support themselves. Good reader suggestions. Okay. For a short section or a smaller paper, I should say, it's still a thorough read by yours truly. I don't skimp. I don't know. I owe it to you all to take my time and just really, especially when it comes to the horoscope. I want to make sure that I get right to the facts here of what it is you're going to be expecting as a Scorpio today. And as at first glance, I look down and see Madeline Aslan. I say, 5 stars today for Scorpio. And what could possibly equate to a 5-star rating for us Scorpios? And she says, today draws kindness and empathy your way. Music and color can be powerful inspiration. You'll spend more time with a favorite project. And that was like my kind of encompassment on the screen. Like suggesting this is the project that I'm kind of referencing here. So yeah, she has a point there. I mean, this is kind of like a nice little project. I don't know if it's my favorite, but thank you, Madeline. Does that ring any bells for you, Scorpios? If not, there's always Monday's horoscope, so maybe that'll make more sense. Now, I'm going to have a sip of coffee, and then I'm going to finish off our read with the front section, as we tend to do. Front section today has it above the fold, top of the fold. CDC gives guidance on opening schools. Did you see that? CDC came out yesterday with a little bit of additional guidance. Didn't really seem like anything real breaking that we haven't already seen in past recommendations, but they updated it, put it to paper, so now they did say the safest way to open schools is to ensure that there is as little disease as possible in the community, said CDC Director Rochelle Walensky. Even so, she said, schools could open for some in-person instruction at high levels of community transmission, provided they take necessary steps to mitigate spread. Highlights, which is a nice little call-out box right here. I can get it to among the CDC's recommendations. 6 feet, side buildings, open doors, windows. Prioritize vaccination for school teachers and staff. That's something that needs to be done. We're still, those groups are still in 1B, meaning that there's a whole other group of people, like thousands of people that need to get it before it gets to teachers. Schools in areas with high rates of transmission should opt for virtual. Like I said, doesn't seem to be too many earth-shattering decrees here. It's almost like and just to remind you, here's what we said 6 months ago. We're just going to kind of put it on new letterhead. Hand to the Inquirer here. And this is what they should do, although it is below the fold at the very bottom of the page. But here's an article that's not the best for them in terms of PR. Inquirer. When you have an article or when you have a news story that breaks that is kind of, strangely about the company that's publishing the news, how are they going to handle that? You think, how are they going to cover that story when it's about them? Are they going to kind of bury that? Well, again, to the Inquirer's credit, it's on the front page. And they also accompanied it with this graph. So they didn't say, we're just going to make our readers read this and decipher what's going on. And hopefully they'll maybe not get the point, or maybe they'll glaze over it or glance over it. They actually put a graph in here. Total openness, looks like. Transparency. I appreciate it. So what's the breakdown? White men account for 96 of the Inquirer's 225 newsroom staff members as of August 2020. Overall, white men and women made up nearly 3 out of every 4 newsroom employees. Black staffers counted for less than 12% in the newsroom, a share far lower than that of the black population of Philadelphia, 40%, or the region, 20%. The audit of the Inquirer staff was commissioned by the Inquirer and conducted by researchers at Temple. Found that out of 14,000 people featured in a sample of 3,000 articles, photos, and videos between August 19 and July 2020, about a quarter were black, 3% were Latinx, and less than 2% were Asian. Interesting. That's funny. They talk about the pictures that that the Inquirers published over that period of time and the demographics of the racial makeup of those people. And you can't help who the Congress people are, but the 3 people on this page, 3 pictures, white men. That's going to keep the ratio low. Gotta keep it down. White reporters were more likely to write stories about white people, according to the report, while non-white journalists featured subjects who were, quote, far more diverse. The newsroom is 3/4 white. Wow. Capitol casualties. 2 officers who helped fight the D.C. mob died of suicide, including Jeffrey Smith, that picture I showed earlier. 3 white men, he was the cop. Died of suicide 8 days after the insurrection. Engulfed in the crash of rioters storming the Capitol, D.C. police officer Jeffrey Smith sent his wife a text that spoke to the futility and fears of his mission. London has fallen, the 35-year-old tapped on his phone at 2:38 p.m. on the 6th, knowing his wife would understand he was referring to a movie by that name about a plan to assassinate world leaders attending a funeral in Britain. He was in the midst of it. I'm going to read more about that and the suicides and the fallout, mental health fallout for these officers. Inquirer.com, and I will be putting this section aside to read more about it after the read is over. After this live read is over. Did you see that this Biden press aide was suspended over conduct? T.J. Ducklow is accused of threatening a journalist covering his relationship with another reporter. White House Deputy Press Secretary T.J. Ducklow has been suspended for a week without pay after he reportedly issued a sexist and profane threat to a journalist seeking to cover his relationship with another reporter. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Friday that Ducklow's conduct was completely unacceptable. Said while she had not spoken about the incident with President Joe Biden, Ducklow and aides at the highest levels of the White House communications team had apologized for the incident. Wow. The Inquirer says, you know what? Not only are we going to put a graph on the front page to make sure people know that we're going to own this, again, which I truly appreciate, we're going to put one in the next part of the article that we jump to after the jump. Whom the Inquirer covers compare with whom the Inquirer serves. Look at that. That's really interesting, isn't it? I find it interesting. You got, when you look at the percentage of the population of the city versus who gets made in the paper, I mean, it's clearly discrepancies. And listen, again, I said it before, like news is news. Sometimes when the news happens, you can't control who makes up the racial components of this aspect of the news, but you can seek out other news. You can make the stories, News outlets make the stories. And there are stories out there that involve more diverse people. Just got to find them. You got to make it a point to find them. It's part of the job of a news agency, especially in 2021. It's about time, really. All right, we're going to move into the business inset. A little article here on the legalization bill of weed in New Jersey inching forward. The purported holdup has been Murphy's concern that the proposed law hasn't specified uniform penalties for underage users. So it looks like that's what's bogging it down. What happens if a kid who's not of age find him puffing? What do we do? And that brings us to the end, I think. Right? I don't know if I want to read about that right here as well. Another situation where inequities involving, African Americans and other races have been uncovered. New York case shows inequities in policing of black kids. The 9-year-old black girl sat handcuffed in the backseat of a police car, distraught and crying for her father, as the white officers grew increasingly impatient while they tried to wrangle her fully into the vehicle. Quote, "This is your last chance," one officer warned. "Otherwise, pepper spray is going in your eyeballs." I heard about this. What started with a report of a, quote, family trouble in Rochester and ended with police treating a fourth grader like a crime suspect has spurred outrage as the latest example of law enforcement mistreatment of black people. Research shows black children are often viewed as being older than they are and are more likely to be seen as threatening or dangerous. Advocates have long said that leads to police treating them in ways that they wouldn't dream of treating white children. In some cases, it has led to fatalities like the killing of Tamir Rice, a black 12-year-old shot by a white police officer in 2014. Quote, "Black children have never been given their opportunity to be children," said Kristen Henning, law professor and director of the Juvenile Justice Clinic, an initiative at Georgetown Law. A study published in the journal Pediatrics in late 2020 found black children and teenagers were 6 times as likely to die from police gunfire as white children. It analyzed data from police use of force in situations involving young people between the ages of 12 and 17 from 2003 to 2018. Quote, "Black children have really been seen as older, more culpable, less amenable to rehabilitation, and less worthy of the Western notions of innocence and the Western notions of childhood." So if you're not angered by stuff like that, if this just doesn't really make you really just frustrated with us as people and our society, then you might want to go watch another program, because it irks me And I hate to end our show today with something of such, visceral type, emotionally driven stuff. But sometimes you got to be kicked in the pants. So there's a couple studies that we just saw that show we still got a long, long way to go, as if we didn't know that already. Just got to keep on keeping on, I guess. Keep on advocating out there for equal treatment and justice and representation. But for today, I guess you can enjoy your Saturday. Take it easy. It's cold if you're in the Northeast. Sip on your cup of Joe, if that's what you're into, or whatever other drink, morning drink, suit your fancy. And then have a great rest of the day, because I won't see you until Monday. So I should say, have a great rest of the weekend. Take it easy. Read a little bit, if you can. Grab a book, magazine. And when I say read, I mean like something physical. Like you hold it, like a newspaper, not go online. Okay? That's my ask. Have a great rest of the day, rest of the weekend.